Alrighty, so it's time to get into sketches. And I know we kind of went over this in class, but I'm just going to go over it again for those of you who missed it. So there are two ways to make sketches in Onshape. You can either do it through here or through here. You can either click create document here or create document here. I always do this just because it's just I'm just used to it at this point. Please name your document something so you don't get mixed up with it. I'm gonna call it, I don't know. I know, right? I'm so entertaining, right? Anyways, so this is our workspace, our 3D workspace, and we have here some planes, and this represents our 3D axes. So if you see on the top right here, this right plane represents the y-axis. This well the planes don't really represent axes. It's just in a certain axis, right? So this right represents the ZY axis, the front represents the ZX axis, and then the top represents the XY axis, right? So probably in math you guys are used to the XY axis. We're just adding a Z axis to it, which makes it three planes, right? That's what 3D is. But yeah, anyways. So we're not going to touch any of this today. These are all 3D part making tools, and then over here is sheet metal. You guys won't have these either. Those are just custom features that you can add. Don't worry about that right now. But we're just going to worry about the 2D world. So to get into the 2D world, you can either click sketch here, or you can press Shift S, which is the much cooler way to do it. And you can select any plane, and that creates a sketch plane. A sketch plane is different from a normal plane. These are guides. These planes are considered guides, while the sketch plane is where you actually create the sketch. And that's an important distinction to make, so you don't get confused later on. So these planes are just there for guides. So if you press P, you can show or hide them, or you can manually go over here and click each one individually, but you know, you're just better off just learning the hotkeys. So P to hide / show the planes, and then N to center to your subject. So notice I'm gonna hit escape here. If I press N right now, nothing happens, and that's because we don't have a sketch plane we don't have a subject, right? We don't have a subject for it to center to, right? So if I create my sketch here again, press N, now it centers to the sketch because it knows what it's centering to. And if you press N again as a bonus, it flips to the other side. Notice how the sketch is now reversed. You switch to the other side. I haven't really found a use for it, but cool party trick, I guess. So we are now in the 2D world, and the number one most important thing to understand is that everything in sketching is designed, well, mostly, a huge asterisk on that, but is designed to be extruded later on. So what I mean by that is I'm just gonna have a line here, and I'm going to make a triangle like this, and I'm gonna make a little line like that, the two lines like this. Notice the difference between this triangle and then just this TP looking thing. Notice the shaded gray in this shape, and that's basically telling us that we have fully defined this shape. And that means that we have told Onshape, hey buddy, this is something that you can extrude, and Onshape can understand that. Onshape is understanding that, okay, you completed this shape, so we know that we can extrude this. Onshape has no clue what to do here because we didn't complete the shape. So if you just complete it, I don't know, make it like a zigzag or something, but whatever. Once you complete it, Onshape will know, okay, this shaded gray thing is something that I can extrude. Important concept to remember. You can also navigate through these cubes if you want. I just prefer to just do my scrolling way. Remember that my controls are different from yours, but you can just consult your settings to see what your panning and rotating controls are. But if we put a line right here, so L is for line. You can do anything with that line. So if you just clicked on that point and then just move your mouse anywhere, it just follows with your cursor, and then you can just let go, and then it just keeps going, and then you can just click, 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 click. I'm just left clicking, by the way. And you can either finish it off by finishing the shape, which Onshape will immediately detect, or you can press escape. And that lets go of the tool. That releases the tool. So L is for line. And then if you press escape, that releases the tool. So I'm going to delete all of this by dragging. I'm left click dragging on all of this and pressing delete. So L is for line. Next up we have our rectangles. So there are 3 types of rectangles that we can make. R is for the center rectangle. So if we, yeah, I'll just go here. Center rectangle is, it tells you the hotkeys, by the way. So center rectangle just makes a rectangle from the center. So you can just click on any point and it just creates it from the center like that. G is for a corner rectangle. So as you expect, it's just creating it from the corner that you select, right? And then finally we have a line rectangle, which doesn't have a hotkey, but I've basically used this like 10 times total. It's not something that we use very commonly, but it just comes in handy when you're making rectangles in an angle and you're too lazy to dimension it to an angle that you want. There are some uses for it, and it is pretty useful. But yeah, that's angled rectangle. You can just make rectangles in any angle that you want. That's basically that. We have circles next. So C for circle, obviously. You can press C and then just left click and left click again to release the circle, and then you just have circles. There are a few other ones, so like ellipse and 3-point circle. I mean, it's not like I've never used this ever. Honestly, I don't even know why I would use this, but it's there for you if you want to use it. And then we have ellipse over here. You guys kind of get it. You can learn these two on your own time, but yeah. So here, I'm just gonna go to the robot again to show you the other uses that I have. This is probably one of the most useful features. It's probably the one I use the most, honestly. Like when I'm making parts for assemblies, this is probably the most useful feature. I'll cover that right now. Actually, I'm gonna do that right now. I'm changing things up. So I'm gonna go to the intake over here. I just want to show you guys how this works. So let's go to this one, the drive arm motor. So if you notice over here, this is my little part that I made, right? And here's all my sketches, right? So this is my original sketch for this is just a sketch for my intake, right? If I hover over this, notice how it has that block. That is the exact same as this. And I basically got this, if I hover over it, I basically got this design from actually going to the assembly and then importing this bumper in. So what that means is I made a sketch off of this bumper. And you can actually do that, and I won't cover that right now, but that's what you use project for. So I basically said, okay, this little curve right here, and then this, I want to bring this into my sketch. And then you can use that tool and exactly duplicate it into your sketch. So it's a pretty useful tool. We'll get into that later on in an advanced training, but it's just there for you guys to know. Arcs, we barely use them. Just don't worry about it. Text, you can figure that out on your own. So the most important thing is the dimension tool. That is the single most important thing in all of sketching. And everything that we design is, well, dimensioned, right? So we want to define dimensions for everything. So let's say the slope is 20 inches. You can, here, I'm going to do that again. D for dimension. You click a line and you can dimension it to whatever you want. So I'm going to do it again. D over here. Left click again. Type whatever inches you want and then press enter. And that creates a dimension. Notice how the shape was blue-ish with this black over here, and then when I dimension this, everything turned black, right? That means that your shape is fully constrained / fully defined, both actually, fully defined and fully constrained. And this is good. That means that I cannot drag this shape because it is fully, it has all its relationships defined. And I'll show you what something that doesn't have relationships defined looks like. Notice how this is black, and I don't need to, notice how when I dimension this, it turns gray. And that's because Onshape automatically does the dimension calculations for us. So Pythagorean theorem, right? So this is the hypotenuse, this is this is one side, and it automatically calculated what this side has to be, right? So we don't actually have to dimension this because it'll just turn gray, meaning that this dimension does not actually do anything because it automatically does it for us. So that's something to keep in mind. So that's the dimension tool. Now we're going to get into sketch constraints, and that is probably the second most important thing, because to create variable sketches you need to know sketch constraints. So let's say I had a line like this, and then it was 8 inches long, and then, you know what, let's call it the bottom of a car, and I'm going to dimension this circle to be, oh, by the way, this is diameter. Onshape works in diameter, so that line through the circle there, that means diameter instead of radius. So good to know. This is 1.5 inches in diameter. And notice how this is all blue right now. So, oh, you know what? I can actually use the line rectangle for this. Look at that. Now I have the body of a car. I mean, if you want to call this a car, you can. It just looks like a, I don't know, looks like a box, you know, like the, what is it, like the Boxster car. No, not the Porsche. That one, oh, the International Scout. This box, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, this thing just looks like that. But let's say we want to place this on this slope. You know, let's call this the road, and this is a car that needs to get on this road. How would we do that? We could try dragging it, because notice how this is all blue, so you can freely move the sketch. But the problem is we need to get this directly touching the slope. So how would we do that? There's two ways I could think of doing this. I guess you could try dimensioning this with the slope and then setting that to 0 degrees, right? So now we have the line that is now 0 degrees with this line, meaning that it's parallel. Or we could do the cooler way and go up here to our parallel tool, or you press B, right? I haven't fully memorized the sketch constraint ones yet. It'll come with experience. Over here and over here. Oh, well, I misclicked that, but yeah, look at that. So now I created a parallel sketch constraint between this line and this line, and you can see when I highlight over these sketch constraints, oh, notice how it shows the relationships that it made with many lines that it did. Notice how we have a parallel relationship between this line and this line. So that's pretty cool. So now if we drag this, now we maintain this parallelness with the the road. But now we need to get this to touch the ground. And there's also, again, two ways to do that. I can do the dimension tool and make this, it should be 0.75, right? Yeah, okay, 0.75, because half of the diameter is the radius, and then that's the distance that we need to do for that. You can do dimension, and that gets us perfectly touching the road. And how do I know that? Because this gray shaded area appeared. So if I made this 0.8, notice how this is white again, but 0.75, it's gray because the shape is completed, meaning that this circle is perfectly tangent with this line. Tangent. Tangent. I wonder if there's a feature called tangent. Oh my god, what do you know there is? If you press T for tangent, I can just make one of these circles touch the line like that, and it just does it for me does it for me in one click instead of 3. Pretty cool, right? And now, since I defined that sketch, look at this. Now we have a car that's able to only drive up this slope, which is pretty cool. And by the way, if you don't know what tangent means, it just means a 90-degree angle with the line. So, oh yeah, this is a good example. So a line that is creating a perfect 90-degree angle with, imagine a line going through the center of the circle, and it just creates a 90-degree angle with it. That's basically what tangent is. So now we have this little car that's going up the slope. If you notice this constraint over here, you'll see this a lot. Yeah, like a lot of these. So that's coincident, and that just basically means that two things are touching each other. So I is for coincident, or you can click up here. So if I just click this line and then this line, notice how those two touch together. So that's basically what coincident means. Two things touch each other like that. So I can make this touch that, and it'll figure out how to do it. And maybe I want this to touch that, then it does something like that. So that just basically says I want two things to touch each other. So let's apply that for something over here. So let's say I have a line going through like this, right? And I press I, and then have it touch this line right here, and then I have it touch this point right here. What happens if I try to tell this line to touch the point up here? Well, we'll have an error because it's a line, right? It won't automatically just split the line up. That's where we would have to, well, make two lines, right? Then we define this point to touch that point, because you would need to have a triangle to be able to connect 3 points, right? Similarly, a lot of errors that you might come into, if I dimension this and then try doing sketch constraints, so like I with here, it'll work like that, but let's say I wanted to try to coincident with this. It won't work because this point cannot touch this point because I've limited to 8 inches. So I either have to delete this sketch constraint or I have to delete this dimension. So if I delete it, now it will touch, or I'm gonna have to delete this coincident and then make it touch something else where it can reach 8 inches. So probably this line, and it'll figure out where exactly 8 inches away from this point will it touch this line. So it comes in handy a lot, and it's pretty cool. You don't really need to worry about the other ones. Perpendicular, that makes sense, right? Any 90-degree angle, you have a line over here. Perpendicular, you can just select the line and that line, and it just flew off somewhere. I'm just gonna bring this over here. Notice how it's perpendicular. Another cool trick is, in case you have a line that looks like this and you just can't tell, if you press X, that's for extend, and if you just click the line, you can just drag it until it meets whatever point that you want it to meet. So if I just click over here, then it just extends the line like that. Another way to get rid of things is through trim. So rather than deleting the full line, which you can, obviously, I can use trim and just, well, trim it. So if I click this line and press delete, it would delete the whole line, right? But if I press M and then just click the line, it only eliminates like a line that's whatever it goes until something that it touches, right? So this is going till here because it touches something over here, so that's a line segment, and then you can just delete it. So you can either click on it or you can drag like that and delete it, like Fruit Ninja, where you can just drag and swipe and delete stuff like this. It gets kind of fun. So that's trim for you. And yeah, so those are a few of the sketch constraints. There's two more. You guys don't need to worry about these because honestly I've never used them. I've literally never used them, but I'm sure they come in handy. It's just I don't know what we'd use it for. So horizontal and vertical. So H is for horizontal. So if you want to make a line that's completely flat with some axes, so let's say the x-axis in this case, just click horizontal and you can make it completely flat with the axis. And then you can do the same thing with vertical. Make it flat with the z-axis, meaning 0 degrees with the axis. It'll just do it for you like that. So it's pretty cool. So now that you guys understand constraints, now we're going to get into variable sketches. So variable sketches is where you have a design that changes based on a dimension. So a good example of that is honestly, if I go all the way back to here, probably, we do some complex sketching, especially when we're first starting off making the robot. If this will load, please. Yeah, okay. Oh, wait. Do I have it? No. Maybe go over here. This sucks. I'm pretty sure it's in this one. Oh, God. It better be this one. Is this? No. Where is it? Where is it? Oh my God. Oh wait, I think this, yeah, it's here. Here it is. Okay. So I found the sketch. So where the sketch? Okay, here it is. So I'm going to go to this sketch over here. So this is how so this is actually how we make this is actually how we sketch stuff out. So when we're planning our robot, this is probably this is a better example. So when we're planning our robot, we always think of how, like, the rotations, axis of rotation stuff. So if you look over here, notice how I have a little intake here. If I change this to some other dimension, like, oh, I should probably, yeah, I should go to my workspace again. So let's say I can change. So notice the parts here, right? I can change these parts, but just a simple sketch. So if I make this, I don't know, 85. Okay, maybe not that. Maybe it's this one. Also not that, but that's okay. Wait, can I just drag this? Oh, I think I can drag this. I think I defined it to be draggable. Or not. Okay. It's okay. That's nice. Okay, wait. Oh, I think I have this. No. Oh, it's a driven constraint. Okay. So this is the shooter, a basic shooter over here. So if I make this, I don't know, 18 inches, notice how the shooter itself changes and the length also changed with it. So if I make it 56, See how the length changed with it? And that's because we said that we want the shooter to touch the edge of the robot. So it's basically adjusting for that. So if I make this 89 degrees, it's going to create the longest line the world's ever seen because it wants it to touch the edge of the robot. So that's basically a simple example of variable sketching. So I can show a more complex example here. So let's say I want this robot to be some certain distance from this no matter what happens to this dimension. So let's say I'm going to constrain this to be 2 inches away from the slope no matter what happens. And let's say the slope, well, the height of this changes based on this length. So how would I do that? Well, actually, let's do it based off this distance. So let's put this at, I don't know, 8 inches for now. And then let's dimension this triangle is based on the distance from here. So let's just do that. So now if I make this 20 inches, oh shoot. Look at that, it maintains that relationship. Make it 80, that relationship is maintained. Now maybe let's delete this and see what happens now. 60, still maintains it because this distance is, well, it's variable, right? So this sketch changes, like the whole sketch can change based on a single constraint or a single sketch dimension. And I can even extend that to, let's say I want this distance to only, oh, let's delete this. Look what happens now. Now it's just the back that's moving, right? So dimensions create these relationships, and then we can like change these dimensions to do stuff for us. And it really just comes down to understanding constraints. And it's actually pretty cool. So something definitely worth learning. So if I make this 0, that won't work because yeah, that would not work. But this one would. Like this. Yeah. But yeah, that's basically variable sketching in a nutshell. It definitely gets a lot more complex, especially when you are making like when you initially start designing things, it gets pretty complex. Is there, I'm sure there's something. This is our very old, this is how we start off designing things. We create them in very simple designs, and then we work off of it. So we start with sketches and then make it 3D, and then we work off of that. So yeah, that's pretty much it for sketching. If you guys get that basics down, you're pretty much set for the rest of it. Yeah, so you can actually import sketches, by the way. It's pretty cool. And then you have the robot like follow it, and then you can see how it works and stuff. It gets pretty complex, and there's a lot of things you can do, but these are the basics. So if you guys get this, you're off to a great start. So yeah, that's pretty much it for sketches. I'll see you guys in the next video.